Good morning. Welcome back to another dose of the district. I'm Matt Clark, and alongside me today I got Battalion Chief Brett Beach, Lieutenant Jarred Erisman and Firefighter Lincoln Weizman. Good morning.
Morning.
Hello. Hey, today we're going to get into fire service training and leadership development. Brett, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Battalion Chief of Training here at Miami Valley Fire District. 30 years in the fire service. Spent a long time on the ladder truck. Got promoted just a couple years ago.
Jarred?
Lieutenant here at the district, Station 53. Been promoted here for a couple years, been in the fire service for 20.
Lincoln Weizman. I've worked at the district for 6 years. Been in the fire service for about 10. Work at Station 54. Best ladder truck in the county.
I'm sure you'll have people discuss that with you.
That's fine. We'll discuss it.
I'm Lieutenant Matt Clark. I work here at 52s on an engine company. I've been at the district for about 4 years. Today we're going to talk about training at different levels of your career as a recruit, as an ongoing company officer, and what you do training with your crews. And then as you get into that promotional level, working on those leadership skills. So when you have a new guy that comes to 53s, Jarred, what are some things you want to talk about and go over with them as a recruit with the district?
Well, for me, usually we're one of the last houses to get our new recruits. So they start off with their green book process. They start at 52s and kind of work their way through the district. So a lot of
And
times,
for those that don't know what a green book process is here at the district, can you explain a little bit about that?
yeah, so that's basically our rookie checkoff packet. And, whether you're a lateral hire or, somebody fresh out of fire school, you get a green book. It's just, we make sure that you hit certain things before we, basically release you out to the street. So there's no confusion when we go on calls, the terminology's there, and all those types of things. So usually when they get down to me, they've gone through a whole lot of those things. So we just kind of basically just clear up any type of confusion they may have had, wrap up some of their engine company things that maybe they didn't get done. And then we do a lot of like district familiarization downtown, which I think everybody kind of does in their own district anyways. So we do those things. And like I said, we just really kind of clean up what's not been done yet.
And what's kind of unique to Miami Valley Fire District is all 5 of our stations are in their own little types of district, for lack of better words.
Yep.
Downtown, as you spoke, is the old Miamisburg downtown,
Mm-hmm.
the older homes. If you go to the north side of 55s, they're ranch homes like Huber homes, nursing homes, but not a whole lot of commercial. Here at Station 52, we have a lot of commercial. The mall, the restaurants, the apartments. 54s. Talk a little bit about 54s.
Mostly nursing homes, 2-story residential, small homes.
And second, due to a lot of the
Yeah, and the ladder's
Two
second
different
almost everywhere.
Lincoln, as a senior guy at 54s,
I'm not the senior man.
no, but as a senior guy with more time on, what do you think your job is as for a recruit that comes in? I know you work with B. Scott at 54, so
Yep.
he's a senior guy.
Well, and we have like a mentorship program on top of that. So I'm one of the mentors on our shift. So all the new people at some point come through 54s anyway, and I usually work with them on our day, going over mostly ladder stuff, ground ladders, search, all the tactics of a truck company we go through. And then before we even had the mentorship program, me and B together focused a lot on training new people just so we knew they were to the expectation we want on our shift.
Yeah, and then, so the Green Book, going back to the Green Book, a lot of the new folks, the majority of them will start at Station 52, which is here, and my crew will start with them and kind of get them rolling, or A shift and C shift alone, and then we move them to 54s for phase 2. And we'll talk more about the Green Book as we get along, get into this. Chief Beach, as the training officer here at the district, what is your role on all this recruit training?
Well, really, I leave it up to the company officers and those senior guys to do the training, the actual hands-on. I really just try to ensure the fact that everything's going smoothly, and that if there is an issue, we have a recruit that's not understanding or picking up what they need, that we can, come up with a plan, not necessarily a performance improvement plan, but like just a plan on how are we going to ensure the fact that they're as successful as they could be. And I'll go out to the cans with all the guys, do whatever is needed to be done. But yeah, I mean, the whole mentorship and having the whole journeyman thing was to ensure the fact, because we are a little bit bigger fire department, not that big, but there's 5 houses, and like you said, all 5 houses have something different. And so it's after the first 2, 52s and 54s, most of those skills are done for the most part. It's about going to 55s and understanding how there's a road, we have roads in 55s district that have 3 names, it's still the same street. We're going down to 53s and realizing that, when you're on north or when you're on south means you're on either side of Central Avenue, just stuff like that. Going to 52s and understanding that we have these huge buildings, Dayton Mall being one of them, and how to wrap your head around, just the geographically how big Miami Valley Fire District is.
Yeah, another unique thing about the district is we do, you call it the cans,
Yep.
we call it the cans. It's our own training and development ground. Can you go a little bit on that? Talk a little bit about that.
So, I mean, we started that probably, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago. And prior to really me getting promoted, it was just kind of, we had like 2 or 3 cans up there. There wasn't really there was maybe a plan, but it wasn't bought into by budget, right? And we all know that in the fire service, if there's not a budget line item for something, it's not real.
Yeah.
So we wound up, the Chief Barnett at the time was like, just tell me what you need. And so I got promoted a couple years ago, and we started building out. We have 12 containers. It's a 3-story container building that has multiple different facets to it. Our first floor is our ranch home, 2-bedroom ranch home, kitchen, seaside door, all that kind of stuff. And then we have, the hallway with apartment, kind of doors, for searching, right? So you have that tick-led search, or we're searching off the hand line in that aspect. And we just got the stairwell to the 3rd floor. We're working for that to be an open area, kind of search area. We have future development stuff for that. There's a possibility that we'll get the affordable drill tower, 3-story tower behind it. And we've done a ton of things. What's really nice about it is it's about 1.5 acres of concrete. That allows us to do a lot of things up there, as far as vehicle stuff, drivers, training, whatever. So.
When we talk about ongoing company level training, so the recruit's been on the job for a while, and maybe a year or 2, what are some good trainings that you like to instill in your folks to keep that level up?
So, for me, I worked with Brett for years, and I learned a great deal from him. And to me, when you start looking at training, company level stuff, it doesn't have to be like this elaborate thing, right? So, Matt, you worked with me for, a couple years. So, it could be something as simple as, hey, everybody go get an air pack. We've hit a dry spell. We've not done SCBAs for a while. Let's practice masking drills for an hour. Something like that. But also something I look at is, who's on your crew? How seasoned are your guys? And that plays a lot into, how in-depth of discussion we go to on things. I'm a big fan of always hitting the basics, no matter how long you've been in this fire service. Stretching hose and doing it well, advancing hose and doing it well. For me, since we're on an engine company, we get into a little bit of the extrication stuff, heavier stuff, stabilization. We work a lot with the ladder crew, especially on my day, because we kind of back them up on our shift. So we get together a lot and do different things, have different discussions and stuff like that. So to me, it's not something that has to be super elaborate. It can, for sure, if you have the opportunity. I'm always looking at different things, right? So we've gotten to have a pretty good relationship with the guys at the road garage. you know, we occasionally see them around on calls, or, you know, with us being right on the street, they go by every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we wave to them, or they'll stop by and, yeah, you know, shoot shit, for lack of a better term. And, you know, I always ask them, like, hey, you got any vacants downtown? You know, where's the closest vacant? And so I'll say, hey, everybody get in the truck. We're going to, you know, the most recent one that Brett found for us was, I don't know if I can say addresses on here, but anyways, we'll cut it out if we need to. So this vacant was on Pearl Street. So we roll up yesterday and we went and looked at it, right? So it's pretty disgusting, catch everywhere. But like in my mind, I had a plan going into that, right? Sure. We were going to go in there and we were going to flow water, and you know, we were going to go room to room and do, you know, water mapping.
Yeah, and you're not familiar with that building,
right? So, you know, I grabbed 5-gallon buckets and we're going to go fill them up. You got to fill this bucket up before you go to the next room. You know, now some of the best laid plans, as they say, we get down there, nasty place, and like, oh, yeah, we're not doing this.
Just for the outside training,
right? But you know, like looking for those opportunities. You know, and I think in doing that, it keeps things fresh. It keeps your guys interested, especially if they've been here for a while. You know, and just putting a little bit of effort into it. And it seems like the guys appreciate that, you know, and those are things that I'm always thinking about, you know, sitting out in the mowing the lawn or whatever, and you know, you're doing some mindless activity, and you know, maybe I'm listening to a podcast or something. I like coming up with ideas, fresh ideas. You know, I got a whole section of notes in my phone, like, hey, you know, I heard this guy talk about this, you know, okay, well, maybe we'll try that, you know, and then, you know, having your guys willing to do those things is another thing, which you got to have buy-in, right? So you got to have buy-in, you got to be humble. You know, you got to know when to say, like, this ain't working, you know, this don't work, cut it off, regroup, whatever you want to call it, you know, and then move on, or, you know, find something different.
Yeah, and once you build that muscle memory, one thing I like to do is introduce the communication aspect into it.
Yep.
You know, because we're going to be talking about radios, right? Yep. So if we're going to be training, I like to train the way you play,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so I like to introduce the radio aspect and having the guys and gals talk on the radio as they're doing, slowing their voice down, and talking as it would be a real world.
Right. Well, and you talk about muscle memory. So, you know, most of these guys know I was on a ladder truck with Brett for a long time, and you know, got moved out to an engine house as a write-up assignment, and so I this is kind of how I took my deep dive into the engine world of things. I'm sitting there one day, and I'm like, there's got to be something new. What is it? So, you know, I talked to my cousin. He introduced me into the UL stuff. Well, in my mind, I'm thinking original UL slicer type stuff, and I'm like, you know. And so anyways, I said, heck with it. I took that deep dive. Next thing you know, I'm into the water mapping air entrainment. So you talk about muscle memory. With my guys, they know typically, you know, a room in content or 2 room in content, whatever. We go in, we're knocking out fire. We're going to start hydraulic ventilation, right? So we train on that thing. And so now my guys are like, oh yeah, you know, when we're stretching hose for practice, like, oh yeah, you know, like the first thing I thought of once we, you know, knocked out said room of fire was start venting, you know. Obviously there's a lot more that goes into that we can't get into in a podcast, a short podcast, but you know, that's the muscle memory thing that you try to build within your team.
Yeah, I mean, then knowing that they're going to throw water out the window and start hydraulically ventilating that room after fire is awesome.
Right.
Lincoln, 54s, what are some company level trainings that you like to work with folks on?
We go over the basics almost nonstop. Like how to force doors, how to search, what are we doing when we VES a window, moving from the room after VES. But like tying into what we're talking about, like there's bad training that we can do too. Like even with search specifically, like I've worked at a few different fire departments, and a lot of times when you go over search, you're searching an empty room or a room with like just a mattress, which is so unrealistic. And when we have all these new people that we train and they've only been to one fire and it's like kitchen stove, and then we end up going to like a 3-room black smoke to the floor, that search is not the same as what they've trained. So we try to, like, the cans are still in development, so it's not ideal all the time, but we've tried to like explain that the best we can. Like, we're going to search in the bunk room. It's pretty organized. We keep it clean. But, like, you go in a house you can't see.
Yeah, smoke.
You might not even know where the bed is. Yeah, you're going to find piles of clothes as tall as this couch, and the bed might be in there somewhere. And, like, trying to get people that haven't been to fires to understand that is kind of tricky sometimes. So, like, trying to train the right way can be hard if you don't have, like, houses. Like,
to dive into your VES scenario, you know, how many times do you watch a video or whatever, and some guy goes up to a window and he hammers the floor with a hook or an axe or whatever. Well, fire rescue survey says, hey, there's a pretty good chance somebody's right below that window.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good idea, you know. Or you jump in a window on an actual fire thinking you're going to dive in, and there's a bed, you know, less than a foot underneath, you know. So
it's like
thinking realistically is huge.
Yeah, I mean, we see it. I mean, personally, we've seen it, and I know in the time training thing, it like kind of came up, and we should talk about that because that's really good training. But the guys that come from fire school, you go through fire academy on the live burn days, you don't put the fire out.
Correct.
Because the instructors don't want to build it up.
Training
it takes
scars,
45 minutes. So you go through training, and their like muscle memory is, we're going to push to the fire, just kind of hit the area, and then back out. So they go to a real fire, and sometimes, if they've not been trained appropriately, they're like timid almost, and they get to a fire room or whatever and put fire out. Like, this is real life now. And I know in the training, like my crew specifically, we were kind of like, I was actually riding up that day, and the guys that were on the nozzle were like, we found the fire, but like, should we put it out? Like, I don't really know either, because it's a new training we're doing.
Yeah.
I just acknowledged we put the fire out, we backed out. Like, so I mean, there's definitely like a gap in bad training and good training versus school and real world.
And we try to close that gap a lot. Like,
Yeah.
for our live burns, you know, last year we said we were not going to, we're just going to rebuild fires, put it out.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want that to be that way.
Because we have just so
And
many
it's
new
just
people.
more, it is, right. And that is really what this all, I mean, you know, talking about levels, right? So, you know, when, as a company officer, you can look at your crew and be like, well, I've got these 3 guys that have, you know, 3 or 4 years in. I got the senior guy over here. I know what needs to be done. And you can look at your senior guy and be like, listen, like, we are in a position where we have to train these young guys up. So we're going to be at PAX a little more. That's what it is, right? And, you know, the time trial, the whole premise for that was, yes, communication, right? Because I wanted to ensure the fact that everybody hit their radio benchmarks and that the people that ride up feel that, okay? And then 2 was to add as much pressure, fake pressure, if you will.
Competition.
Almost, yeah. Right. So that some of these younger firemen that we have can get a little jacked up on training. It's not just, I'm with Lieutenant Erisman today, and we're going to pull, you know, we stretch every day, right? Like, yeah, that gets monotonous. I agree with it completely, but like, I need them to be a little ramped.
Yeah.
Because we have such a young fire department.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the seniority list, right? Like, single digit numbers is 75% of our seniority list. I mean, just recently, within the last 9 months, we had like 7 firefighters that could not drink legally. And we had like 40 under the age of like 28. So like, and it's okay to be young. We were all, some of us were young at one time. But it's, you know, they are, I always preach that none of the citizens want you to be safe when push comes to shove, right? Miss McGillicuddy's young daughter, son, in that window. My baby's in that window. The whole fire school. My baby's in that window. They're not looking for you to do the safe thing and hit the fire from the outside. They're looking for you to go up there and VES that room, right? It's not safe.
Borderline reckless.
Right.
Right.
It's not safe, but I need you to be smart. I need smart firemen in the fire service, plain and simple. And you pick up being smart by having experience and going on calls and training.
Basically, you have to train the thought process,
Right.
not the actual skill.
Right.
Like,
Right, because the job's not safe. And I'm not just talking about structure fires. Vehicle extrications, driving ER to calls, all of it, right? Like, it's just not safe. Understanding that you go into this house and on this, whatever unknown issue or overdose or whatever, and to be able to look at and understand what your surroundings are and have situational awareness. Because that's another thing that a lot of our young firemen lack is situational awareness. They'll just walk into a room because that's what they do. Like,
Yeah.
this is just like coming at home. No, it's not.
And walking is another thing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like, how many times I know there's been several times I've been on a fire, couldn't see my feet, right? We're crawling.
Right.
Because that's where you should be. And I've ran into people's knees. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Newer person. Oh, I don't know this, that, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, like, for example, we did a VES training the other day with one of the new guys at the cans.
Mhm.
You came up there, and he threw the ground ladder and went up. And I was up there waiting on him, just kind of talking through. And I was like, all right, now, like, come into the room, like, VES. And he's a tall dude, like, over 6 foot. And he just, like, hiked his leg over the window and climbed in. And I was like, you can do that, but if this is, like, in the moment, there's black smoke chugging out of this window, doesn't it make more sense to stay low and kind of roll in versus like sticking your head in the high heat, all that stuff? He's like, oh yeah. But like he's not thinking about it. Like for a training scenario, yeah, it's no big deal. Just climb in. It was easy for him. But you got to do it like we're going to do it.
Right.
Because we go to fire. I don't know this guy. You've only worked with him for 30 minutes. If he's going to go up there and climb in like that, feet first, I just don't know how this is going to play out.
Right.
How often do you guys go over Mayday trainings? Like the things that are going to save us? Maydays, RIT?
I'll be honest with you.
Not as much as we probably should.
Exactly. Yeah. I train more so we don't ever end up in that situation.
Yeah.
Personally, but probably not as much as we should.
What's enough, do you think, for a Mayday
Well,
training?
I mean, the fire service is so broad, right? As far as things you should be training for. So to quantify a number for enough is probably not realistic. But I would also say that, in a rotation in your brain of things to do, especially as a company officer, right? We just pulled hose last week or yard lay or whatever. It should definitely be in there. And even if all we're talking about is maybe a tabletop of radio communications and how to deal with your radio, to, we're going to go out to the cans and we're going to go over drags, right? Drags, firefighter drags, right? And victim drags.
Because your goal is to keep the calm in the chaos, right?
Right.
As a Mayday, it's going to be crazy, right?
Right.
Everybody's ears are going to pop up, Mayday,
Right.
Mayday. So my goal teaching the guys is just make sure you slow yourself down and do a proper Mayday.
Well, that's a good point because probably 2 months ago, I was on a fire and there was a Mayday, and that definitely perks your ears up for sure. But I think the big thing is, thank goodness, like we had some senior dudes there that were able to. We were like, hang on, what's going on? What's the situation? Okay. He ended up getting himself out of it. No big deal. But everybody just quit spraying water. I was like, well, give me the nozzle. I'll spray water.
Right.
I'll spray the water. I think you need me over there.
To be completed.
Well,
Without even
right.
more so.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah.
Truly.
I mean, you're exactly right.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I'm like with Maydays, like what percentage, I don't know, I'm not horrible with numbers, but the percentage of firemen that are saved by their crew
Or
is
themselves.
extremely
Right.
high
Yeah,
versus
extremely
like
high.
the actual RIT crew.
Right.
Well,
So, I mean, like in that situation, I think you told me about it, like
Yeah.
the guys in the room just kind of like fix the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess I could probably be considered a podcast nerd, but like I follow Brian Brush a lot, right? And he's been putting out some killer information here lately, and his big thing is you take away heart attacks, cancers, and vehicle accidents. Firefighters are safer now than they've ever been.
Sure.
So I don't remember specific numbers, so I'm not going to get in on that. But they're safer now than they've ever been. So
Not to say RIT's not important,
right,
but like I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. Like RIT's very important,
right,
but I feel like our crew specifically, like we'll train aspects of RIT without getting the RIT bag out and saying we're training on May days. Like we train drags all the time. We train like zero visibility stuff. We're just not physically like this is a Mayday scenario training. So, and I unfortunately I think we lean on kind of like the senior guys a little bit. Like we kind of just here when shit hits the fan, it's always like the guys that have been there, done that, kind of like naturally just kind of take over.
I would agree with that.
You know, and they fix the problem.
Oh, those are going to be your guys that have been around a little while and
Yeah.
keep the calm under pressure and can help lead the younger folks through it.
Yep.
Before we get into the next little note that I have, the leadership development, my thing would be learn from as many people as you can, take away from them what you want, and leave the rest. You build your own toolbox. We've talked about that for years. And if I can get something from you or you, Lincoln, or you, Chief, I'm going to take it and build my own box and pass on to the other folks, and then leave the rest, because there's not a whole lot of room up there anymore.
Well, people naturally fall in. I'm not going to say we have cliques, like I wouldn't say that, but people naturally fall in with people that are like-minded, or whatever you want to call it. So,
Well, I can relate to that.
yeah, I might work with you, and maybe we don't see eye to eye on things, but like Brett and I, like, I could take a lot from him, or whatever it may be. So, I think finding that person that, will, one, kind of take you under their wing and kind of show you the way, and making sure it's a good way, and it's not bad training or building training scars, whatever you want to call it, is super important.
And we kind of hit on bad training a little bit. Do you think there's a bad training?
I think there can be too much of a poor training.
Too much of a poor training, I think, in turn will build those scars
Yeah.
that then go out to the field or the fire ground in the real world.
I feel like a lot of the younger firefighters that we have are more impressionable, and so having those bad trainings, whatever, however you want to, could be more detrimental for them because they don't have some life experiences to understand, to think for themselves, and to take that information and say, well, it doesn't really fit per se. So an answer to that question, I think, would be, I think us having bad trainings can be very detrimental. Now,
And I think that's a lot of that starts with the positive attitude versus the negative attitude.
right, and I was even going to bring that up, right? Like, we all gravitate towards people that are into the job, right? And being into the job means, right, it's not, it comes out as a negative connotation for some people, but that means that, like, because I want to know.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to be the best one.
I want to be the best one.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to go to the most.
And when you
But you want that job assigned to you.
when you
Right.
become
Yeah,
a
yeah.
I want
company
the hardest job
officer,
when we show up.
the thing that freaks you out the most is that, like, we're on a roof of a industrial fire cutting a hole, and I know that, the other firefighter that was with us, he's got a baby at home, and I know Jarred's wife, his 2 children, and now I am responsible for them to get home, right? And if I am not into the job as a company officer or as a senior person that we might write up, I could be in a position where I do something, I make a decision, whatever, that puts them in jeopardy to either get hurt or possibly perish.
Yep.
That's on me. And if you can't feel that weight as a company officer or as a person riding up, then you're in the wrong spot.
Well, and it's like being into the job. Like every fire department across the world, I would say, everybody knows who the guys at work are that are, like, for lack of a better term, like the hitters. Like the guys that are into the job, I feel like the new guys can pick up on it too. Like the ones who are into it and they train, they want to be really good, versus like the guys that have, you know, not the guys that are like about out the door for retirement, but like even the guys that have been here a few years that just kind of, you know, they like being a fireman, but it's kind of that's it. You know, it's a cool T-shirt. I'm off a lot.
And those young guys move
Like-
towards those people. Those people
I
that
think
are
so,
in the
yeah.
job.
At
And
least I hope we hire enough the right
Yeah.
people that do. I
have
feel
that
like we
positive
have
attitude.
for sure.
But that breed, like my crew, we're all pretty into it. So like, and I think it breeds. Like we get a new guy
Yes.
and we're all into it. That guy's gonna like kind of be a product of his environment, I hope, and be really into it also.
Mhm.
But that could be a bad thing. Like if you go to a house where nobody's really into it, they're all just kind of showing up, and you put a new person there, they're gonna kind of like work into that. I'm grumpy. Why are we going on these calls? X, Y, Z.
Right.
And it just breeds it. And
Agreed.
unfortunately, like if they're there,
And every department has
yeah,
those people.
and that's what I mean. Anywhere in the
There's
Yeah,
no
world,
you
whole
can't
lot
you
you
can't
get.
bat 1,000.
it just is what it is. But being into the job is great across the board. Training X, Y, Z.
And the fire service is dependent on that.
Yeah,
Dependent.
Yeah.
Because that's how all the things go right. Right. I mean, that's truly like as a chief officer, I am dependent on having enough firefighters who are into the job, because
I mean, people
you
make fun of me
never
all the
know,
time
right?
because I'm so into it, but I love it and I want to be really good at it. So
Well, and I think the district attracts those people that
I would
That-
agree with that.
fit that culture,
I hope so.
right?
Yeah.
And we come from all walks of life. You know, a lot of us spent time in other organizations.
Mhm.
I mean, I bet we're 70%, 65% lateral guys here and gals. And so we're all bringing things from other organizations that we have to see how they fit here
Mm-hmm.
in the district. I think that's a huge positive for me, and especially the new guys. That's why a lot of young guys want to come in.
I always ask him that. I was in a part-time interview the other day and I asked her, I said, why? Well, one of the guys asked, why do you want to come here? And I asked, what don't you like about where you work now? Just to kind of see where their head was at. Like,
Right.
what are they going to say? How'd they hear about us? Just, you know, curious because so many people come here.
And was it the culture?
I mean, more or less. She said she did ride-alongs here and enjoyed it. So
We'll transition over to leadership development and chief officers, lieutenants, company officers, and guys that are looking to promote. And it's not just the bugles on our shirts. It's you can be a leader as a guy that has been around the game a little while, and that's how we look at you, Lincoln. As you know, you've been around a while. You're looking to promote, but there's guys that come to you, and you can be a leader for them without having any type of color on your shirt.
yeah, try to be. I mean, I use every podcast I do. I bring up Brent Ray, who's retired, but Brent never promoted.
Right.
And
Shout
he
out.
was probably, I mean, I worked with him for 5 years ish, and one of the best senior men
Yeah.
I've ever worked with. And everybody says that because he was a great driver. He was on the medic almost right up until he left. I mean, he was never the senior guy that like sat in the back, didn't do anything. He was out training new people. I mean, he never promoted. So, I mean, he was a leader from the company level the whole time. So you don't have to be promoted to
No. I mean, we
have that leadership.
We need those senior guys. Not everybody needs to promote to be those leaders, and having a good senior person.
Brett and I talk about this a lot too, because in my opinion, you have to have those senior guys, because if you have somebody who's, I don't know, screwing up, not policy or anything like that, just maybe not doing
Missing the
exactly what
marks,
they should
yeah.
be doing. For me, or Brett to have that conversation, it means something different than
Right.
if Lincoln has that conversation. And so, I have a really good senior guy also, and he handles a lot of that stuff. That's why I was telling him, like, hey man, I'm not putting this on you. And he's like, I got it. So.
I mean, like a lot of those, like it's the unwritten rules. And our crew has started, when Brent was here, he wrote down all these expectations, all the unwritten rules of the fire service.
Yep.
And most of it is, how to carry yourself in a firehouse, not specifically on calls. And he would have we call it the senior man chat. So like anytime we would get a new person or 2 or 3, he would take him in and talk to him. And now that's gone to B. Scott, who's a senior man on our crew now, or actually on our shift, and he does that.
Which is the man behind the cameras, by the way.
Yeah.
So he does that now, but it's giving the expectation to these new people. Like, we can't be mad if they're messing up and we don't tell them.
Right.
But now the expectation's been given. If they drop the ball now, well, you've been told, and he's had to follow up with people a couple times before, like, you're really dropping the ball. You're not doing what is going to help you long term, to try to help them before it gets to an officer. Because once it gets to an officer, they kind of have to do something.
Yep.
I mean, and that's
which is
past like
frustrating on
making
my
coffee
side.
and stuff. But
When I got promoted, right, because now I can't have the same conversation that you can have, and you can't have the same conversation that you
Right. Well, and so like I have
just because it means a difference.
I have a whole list of stuff on my phone, right? And I used to, have that same conversation prior to getting promoted. So now I kind of hang on to it, or I give it to my senior guy, or, anybody who comes here and my name's tied to somehow or another, I'm like, I send it to them, hey, these are things you may want to consider doing. Don't have to. You want to make it, you look like an all-star.
Right.
But, consider it.
What are things to develop leadership for your promotion or just to be that leader in the firehouse? What are things that you like to work on and train on?
I don't know that I like the mentoring. I went to get my instructor because I wanted to be able to do the live birds and stuff. I think I've kind of grown as a quote unquote leader just from watching good
This
leaders.
is your informal interview, by the way.
It might be helpful.
But you're not doing well.
Oh God. Sweat now.
Sweat.
No, but I think I've gained most of what I would consider good leadership skills from working for good leaders. Every fire department I've worked at, I think I was able to identify good leaders to me and was able to follow them. My current lieutenant, going back a little bit, I went to FDIC to take some leadership classes. I've done that a time or two just to hear what different people have to say, and to kind of give my lieutenant a kudos. Both lectures I sat in on were both leadership lectures, and the type of person they described was Brady Creech. And one of the guys on our crew, when I came back, he was like, "How was the class?" I was like, "They just talked about Brady the whole time."
Right.
Brady is a fantastic leader. He, even when it comes to personality issues, the way I've watched him kind of attack those tactfully is exactly how the books tell you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Brady read the books. He's just he's just kind of naturally a good guy and a good leader. So I've tried to, in write-up positions, just be like Brady. In this situation, Brady would do this. Whether it's going to a fire or if we have an issue with, a citizen or whatever. I know kind of what Brady would do. I've worked with him long enough. I just try to be like Brady. So it works out. I have attended a lot of classes, lectures, gone to some live fire stuff to be in charge of a crew. Doing the time trainings as an FCO, I think is really helpful because we have a lot of people here that ride up all the time. Anytime an officer's off, if there's not a lieutenant backfilling that,
Right.
someone's riding up. And we don't have fires every day. Mm-hmm. So there's probably people who have ridden up here for years and never really had to size up a fire or show up second due to a working fire. They've just kind of, gone to fire alarms, this or that. And when you're in this situation, luckily I've had the chance to be first due, second due, riding up before. It's different than in a training. When it's not real versus going and it's all right, this is real. I need to step back a little bit and look wide instead of, doing what I'm used to doing. And I've told Brady, that's the hardest part for me is as a back stepman or a guy on the medic, I already know my job is going to a fire most of the time. It's these 3 or 4 things. When you're riding up, it's really hard to train your brain to not just do those things.
Right.
Because there's guys that are sitting
stepping
behind
back
me,
and looking at that whole picture.
and it's hard to get there. Because I know we had a fire last year at 3 a.m. downtown, and I had 3 new people with me. like very new, and they were all looking at me, and I had to be like, oh, okay, I forgot. I need to tell you guys what to do because I'm just used to going to work, and everybody on our crew goes to work.
But to me, that that's why it's important when you're in a write-up position. Brady's not here, and you don't have a lieutenant. That's why it's important for somebody like me, coming from whether I'm second due, it's your first due or whatever, that I just don't take over, right? Because to me, it's
You're
important
just going to take something away from
because I'm going to take something away from you that you may never get a chance to experience again. I'm more than happy, and we've done this before. I'm more than happy to say, hey, Lincoln, what you got, what you need.
Yep.
I'll help you
to make me make that decision.
I'm not gonna let you drown.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
Right? Because then that thought process, those synapses in your brain.
No, they're real life reps.
Right.
It's real life.
Well, and like
you have that pathway.
But I'm not going to take it from you. I'm going to let you learn from it. Or, and that's any write-up, right? Or, any lesser experienced officer, maybe it's their first fire, but, letting them make sure that they're getting those experiences and we don't take those from them.
Well, and I don't have like too much ego to call and ask for help either. I am not that guy at all. On medic calls, I'll ask for help. Like, I'm not. So, I mean, like, we'll go to fire alarms. This winter we were on one, and I called you.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you were at work, but I was like, hey, this is what I got. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And you were like, call Brad. Like,
Start pushing buttons.
Yeah, you told me what he would do, and I ended up calling.
You know how many
fire
times we
marshal,
went on a fire alarm and I asked Brad, like, hey, so what are you doing? He's like, just kind of push a button.
Well, like,
all right, got it. All right.
I mean, this is a
But-
team
but-
sport.
But
so
the
like,
incidents are such a small part of leadership development, or
Small part, but very important
very important.
because they're few and far between.
But to me, the most important part of it, in the larger picture of it, is the mentoring, coaching, and the conflict resolution. Conflict resolution was probably the hardest for me to gather as a senior guy, as an officer. And so taking classes
and it is.
on that.
Well, and there's all kinds of leadership classes out there, but you know what? In all those classes, if there is any type of I don't know, assessment center type reps or whatever, it's not people so the decisions are way easier. Throw all you guys in a room and you're my crew, and now you're fighting, and I've broke bread with you guys, like we're friends, right? That changes everything.
Yeah, but I would also, when we do the officer class here, the main tenet that I put out there to all those in that officer class is you have to have a relationship with all your people.
Yep.
Right? Because then it's about, your respect for me, my respect for you. Right? I come to you and say, 5 minutes late, Brown, we talked about this. Our expectation needs to be 15 minutes early, right? So that you can leave.
30.
Right, whatever, right, and when that is broken, right, the thought process is we have such a good relationship that subordinate, Lincoln's like, damn, he just does, right, or whatever, right,
it's like you don't want to let your parents.
You don't want to let your parents down, or whatever, right, right. And I think then when there is conflict, right, because you've built those bridges, that you can go in there and not be the heavy. Right, it can be a what's going on conversation instead of you're f***ing us up conversation.
Well, I think that
that's
relies on respect for one another.
Right.
Well, and that's a good leader, bad leader. Because I mean, I've experienced why did you do this? Not explain to me what happened.
Right.
Those are completely different conversations.
Completely. And I'm not saying that you might not get there.
Yeah.
I've gotten there before where it's been like, all right, we have gone over this, and apparently I have spent whatever credibility or whatever is between us, and now I'm telling you as your supervisor. But then that's also the ability to have those uncomfortable conversations, because that is also key, right? So building the relationships, but also be able to know, it's no different than looking at your kids.
Yep.
Like, we're gonna have an uncomfortable conversation because you done some things that I need to hold you accountable for.
Right.
And if I can't have those uncomfortable conversations, then you really aren't doing leadership, right? You're just holding a spot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the cart's just rolling with no horse.
Cart's just rolling with no horse. I had a lieutenant, Steve Schubert, who I was under for a long, long time. He would tell me all the time, you need to apply some leadership right there. And I didn't kind of understand at first what that meant, but as I've grown up into the spot, like,
Makes sense.
you need to show some example, right? You need to give direction. You need to communicate. That is, you need to hold accountable. That is applying leadership to a problem, right? That is what, as a company officer, you get paid to do, is to apply leadership to the problem. Whatever that, and that leadership might have been applied prior to the call coming in, because we've had the conversation about what the back step guy's going to do, what the outside vents, those types of prior to the call. That is applying leadership, right? Holding them accountable. And then when they don't do it, holding them accountable.
Right.
Hey man, what was that about? Oh, because you saw this? Cool. I'm glad you were able to, identify the problem and work around it. Or I just didn't do it. All right. Well,
Like ownership.
Right.
Yep.
When you see a lieutenant take ownership of an issue, that should be eye opening to the crew. Like, that guy didn't try to throw us down the road.
Right.
He owned it, and then I would bet if it's a fire situation, the next day we're going to be training so that situation never happens again.
Agreed.
We'll wrap up here in a few. I just want to go over a couple things that I've taken away from this. Train realistically and consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on fundamentals first. Build confidence through repetition. Encourage teamwork and communication, and maintain accountability and professionalism.
Yeah.
So I think we hit all those today.
Yeah. That's definitely what, in my position, that is what I strive to do, right? And I like to try to ensure the fact, every year we have conversations with the lieutenants. Like, what didn't we do enough of, and what do you guys want to do? And that's how we got to the time thing. We got the lieutenant meeting, and we were coming up with ways to add a little bit more pressure, right, without adding, a risk, and that's what we came up with. So that was the initial. I think, just like what Lincoln was talking about, like, we try very hard to ensure the fact we put out effort, right, either on the company level or as a district in a whole. I mean, we spend a ton of time on the live burn stuff. I mean, you guys know that. Like, that was the thing.
Yep.
And that's something we do annually.
Right.
We didn't really get into that today, but the live burn at Warren County Career Center.
Right.
No, I to piggyback on what Brett said, he does a really great job of making sure he doesn't, by any stretch of the imagination, micromanage any of us. He makes sure that all the company officers have what they need to ensure that our firemen are getting the training that they should get,
right,
and the best training that they should get, and for me, it's kind of comes back. Bob Pressler always says this is the basics always work, and in fact, I think that's the motto for FDTN.
Mm-hmm.
The basics always work, and I think that making sure you're always practicing the basics, right? NBA players are always shooting layups, they're always shooting free throws. Football players are always practicing tackling and throwing footballs or whatever. But the basics always work, and I think that that's a lesson that the fire service can always, take from.
Anything to add before we close out?
Oh wow, they
No.
covered it.
Awesome. Well, as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for giving us some time.
Yeah.
And this has been another Dose of the District.